Hi, my name is Per, stepping in as a backup speaker here. My talk is titled Hacking a Bank Using a Paper Form. This is not a technical talk, but there are things in here that I think should be of interest to anyone that are, designing, doing development, are interested into security and so on. So my name is Per. I think some people may know me from, at least from online. Here's the license plate of my car, which is pretty easy to understand in Norwegian. And I also have a statement from Cormac Hurley, a famous researcher at Microsoft Research, that he has a healthy curiosity into passwords, while I am pathologically obsessed. This was on Twitter in January in 2018, which I'm pretty proud of having from him. So I don't think I have to tell you much about, BankID in Norway, but everyone in Norway is essentially doing online banking. And I do say everyone in quotes because some people don't. And the vast majority of us are also using mobile banking. So we are using dedicated mobile apps on our smartphones to do our online banking. And we do see, as far as I know, a decline in people sitting on their computer doing their online banking. You just do it on your smartphone. And BankID, which I am one of the security and governance managers for at Vipps, is used by everyone for doing authentication and electronic signatures. Of course, this is for banks, but it's not just for the banks. It's also being used by Norwegian government, by insurance companies, health services, and so on. Even if you want to go to a place to get a suntan, you can prove your age by verifying yourself using BankID these days. But as I said, not everyone is online and not everyone is capable of or actually want to use smartphones and computers and stuff. Elderly people, disabled people, incredibly paranoid people, and so on. And there are quite a few of those around. And we need to give them options for doing banking as well. So what I did back what I saw like 2 years ago in 2018, 2019, and also in the beginning of last year, 2020, I saw a lot of campaigns and ads and articles online from banks and so on, especially banks, saying that you should never share your BankID. You should be using what's called disposisjonsrett in Norwegian instead. English, giving the power of attorney to somebody else. It's basically giving access to your account to somebody else, but you don't do that by sharing your OTP codes that you get from your BankID hardware token, and you never share your password. You essentially do not allow somebody to log in using your credentials. Now, I thought it was interesting because, have I shared my BankID with somebody before? Yes, I have. Have I used other people's BankID before? Yes, I have. Is that a violation of the agreement that I have signed? Yes, it is. But honestly, I didn't know that there were any other options available until I heard about this campaign and, the term disposisjonsrett. So when I read about this, that was kind of like, I got to look into this because I want to see if this is a secure way of doing it. And I was also interested to see if this is usable. Can this act as a replacement for just, borrowing your BankID token and password from your grandmother because you're going to help her pay some bills online, as an example. So I set out doing that along with a few other friends of mine. And the majority of this work was being done in August last year, August 2020. And we also remained in contact with the relevant parties until, essentially until today, to be honest. And we saw that when you want to give this power of attorney, disposisjonsrett to somebody else, you can do that by logging into your online bank using BankID and then provide access, type in the social security number of the person or the persons you would like to give access to your account to act on your behalf. And, just let's say for now that BankID is 100% secure. We'll just pretend at least it is. There's absolutely no way it can be hacked or abused in any way. But the other thing we found was that you could also, in some banks, you could also fill out a paper form and submit that by postal mail to the bank in order to provide access to your account for somebody else. And this is basically the, say, backup solution for those that don't use BankID, that don't use online banking and are, they don't want to, or they're not capable of doing so. So we wanted to look into this to see if this, Stone Age type of providing access could have some security flaws connected with it. So with the biggest bank in Norway, DNB, we saw that one of the caveats that they had is that if you are a customer of DNB and you want to provide access to your account for somebody else to act on your behalf, that other person must already be a customer of DNB. And that applies to all the other banks as well. If you want to help your grandmother using disposisjonsrett, you have to be a customer of her registered bank, which in some cases can be fine, but we made the assumption that in most cases that just might not be true, which is, you can become a customer for free, but do you want to? Is there a need for it? And so on. And more interesting is that we found that even though DNB said that the person getting access must be a customer, we proved that that wasn't actually necessary. So DNB had a paper form looking like this. It's a single page A4 where the account owner, let's say that's me, have to fill in my name, my address, my social security number, and my bank account number. And that information is really not much of a secret, which I will get back to here. So I'm the victim here. And I will, the criminals here in this case will fill out this paper form with my information. And then they need a person that will gain access to my account. That will be a money mule, that will be some criminal person, most probably in Norway. That will be put into the form here, name, social security number, address, and so on. And third, this needs to be signed by the account owner, which is me, and the person getting access. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, okay. So we use paper signatures still. But I mean, I've been signing checks and bills and everywhere for a long time, writing Donald Duck or just saying an X. And nobody has reacted to that for, years. So I was sort of curious, will DNB actually make a verification of any kind of these signatures? And last but not least, you need two witnesses to confirm the validity of the document in accordance with the wishes of the account owner, which is me. Witnesses cannot be spouse, partner, parents, kids, or grandchildren of the account owner. And there's an interesting legal question connected to this. Can witnesses be held accountable if this paper form is being submitted and it is actually a fraud? So obtaining your Norwegian social security number, that is considered by some to sort of like be a secret or a challenge, but your social security number in Norway has never actually been, it was never meant to be a secret. It's a publicly known algorithm. And finding out somebody's social security number is easier than you would think. I'm not going to give you the recipe on how to do this, but there are generators online that will generate valid social security numbers for a male person born on September 10, 1971. That's my date of birth. And you will get approximately 200 numbers. And out of those, one of them, those numbers are being used by me, and you need to figure out. So as part of what we did in August last year, we found a service in some remote country that I can't name, and there's absolutely no reason for me to use this Swedish chef in a picture on this slide at all. But we found a service that allowed us to anonymously enter social security numbers and not only have the number verified as being used by a real live person, but by entering the social security number, we also got the full name and the current publicly known address of that person in return from that service. And we could do that without rate limiting and without any kind of authentication first. And then you need to obtain the bank account number of your victim as well that goes into the paper form. So I asked Norwegian Finanstilsynet, is it a secret? And they said, no, not really. There's no law saying that your bank account number is supposed to be a secret. It never was. And I also, by coincidence, because I was selling some used gear online at Finn.no, I also found that when I send something by postoppgave in Norway, pay on delivery, my bank account number is actually being printed onto the label that goes on the package. So all the people handling that package with the postal mail in Norway and the person at the other end receiving my package, they will also be able to see my bank account number. I can't really understand why, but it's printed there. But of course, we had to do a little bit of hacking in this case. So we turned to just a little bit of social engineering. And what we did is a good friend of mine who does social engineering and pen testing for a living, he called the customer service of DNB early Sunday, pretended to be me. He already knew my name, my address, my phone number, and my social security number. And he wanted to get access to my bank account number. So he called, pretended to be me and said, hey, I'm a little hungover this early Sunday morning. And this is kind of, embarrassing, but I have forgotten my account number and I need it because somebody's going to pay me some money. And no, I can't use Vipps. And they asked him, of course, name, address, and social security number, which he already had available. And they also asked him 3 security questions. And he answered all those 3 questions wrong, but they still provided him with my bank account number. Again, not a big deal really, because again, it's not supposed to be secret information. But in the process, of course, I like to talk about static security questions versus what I call dynamic security questions. Static security questions, which are used by a lot of services online, include questions like mother's maiden name, name of first pet, name of first school. And the problem with these are that they don't change. And you can, in so many cases, you can find the answers to these questions by just Googling or searching on Facebook. Dynamic security questions are, in my opinion, just a little bit better. It can be something as name someone you made a payment to during the last few days, or how much money do you have in your account right now? Or how many accounts do you have with us? So the answers are not fixed. They change over time, but there's also a question about, is the entropy good enough? Like, how much money do you have in your account? Well, 0 at most times. So it doesn't have to be that difficult for an attacker to guess the correct answer to this. So we completed this form, and we did this completely legally. I mean, it's a couple of friends of mine, and I asked, do you want access to my account? And the person said, oh, yes, please. Are there any money in there? Well, like 200 kroner. Well, I can still do it. And we sent this on a Tuesday afternoon to the bank in Oslo, and then we just, sat down and waited to see what happens. And again, this is not hacking per se, because we have legally obtained witnesses, 2 people, random people at a cafe. They had absolutely no clue what they were signing on to, more or less, but they filled in the form, they signed, and they even filled in their social security number, both of them, into this paper form. And the person getting access to my account is a friend of mine. So still, again, nothing illegal being done here. So we were interested to see what happens now. Well, boom. It was a complete jackpot because my friend got access to my account. We saw that there were insufficient controls because we used black, red, blue pens. We used the handwriting of several different people to fill in the paper form, some of which was also written in using filling in a PDF and just printing it. So there were no controls of the account owner, the person getting access, or the witnesses. There was no control of the handwriting or anything like that, as far as we could see. The more scary part was that nobody got notified. Me as the account owner, I didn't get any message in my mobile bank, in my banking app, using SMS, email, phone call, nothing. And even more interesting is also that the person getting access to my account didn't receive any notification at all. And here lies the problem with this in August last year. Anybody could fill in this form with the correct details and gain access to your bank account at DNB, and you wouldn't notice because nobody would notify you. And in the online bank, you have to go into several menus to find the option saying who has access to your account right now. And third, which is also interesting, is that my friend got full access to my account. The one and only thing that person could not do was to get a credit card or get a loan from the bank in my name. But that person could see 10 years of my transaction history for my account. So anything I spent money on using card or cash and so on for the past 10 years was visible. And could also transfer money to other accounts in Norway, could make payments, could also send money to anywhere in the world, basically, from the bank. And again, without me noticing before it's essentially too late. So this concept of power of attorney, disposisjonsrett, is not standardized. The legal agreements from bank to bank are a bit different. The order process on how to configure this, the overview, what it looks like on screen, and the changes made to your account, and the use of it, logging, alerting, and also the process of removing somebody's access is different from bank to bank. And also, as an example, one bank had a written agreement for this, which had a preset date of this agreement expires in the year 9999, and you could not change that. So, you know, they obviously think I'm going to live quite a bit longer than I think I'm going to do. And also the fact that, you know, when you log on to your bank, you can't actually see that somebody else has access to your bank account before you go into several different menus and look it up specifically. So, you know, for that, we have to fix this in some way. And there are many ways we can do that. You can use time to our advantage and to the disadvantage of criminals. As an example, you could say that after ordering this kind of access, either online or by using paper, there will be a period where both the account owner and the person getting access has to wait for the setup process to be completed, but they will be notified about this. But talking about notifications, that is quite the issue today. We are receiving tons of notifications in every single channel. There are security notifications, there are user just logged on notifications, there is a user has muted, they have muted you, they have muted themselves. You know, there are all kinds of notifications we are receiving all the time. So in this scenario, it is very important then to evaluate why are we going to notify, who are we going to notify, when are we going to do it, where, in which channels, and which technologies are we going to use. Will email be fine? SMS? Should we be using Signal or WhatsApp or Facebook? Should we be using the integrated sort of mailbox that you have with your online banking account and so on? There's also a need to look into the granularity that we have today for disposisjonsrett, because today, disposisjonsrett doesn't offer any granularity at all. Either you give full access to someone, to your account, or there is no access at all. And as far as I know, Finans Norge is working on something to see if we can, you know, well, make this more granular. Now, if you do log on to Altinn here in Norway, you can have a look there, because as a single person, or especially if you have one or more roles with one or more organizations or companies, they have a long range of different roles that you can give to people or revoke from people as needed. You can see some of them here in Norwegian, just for my personal company, which I basically don't use for anything. And this kind of granularity is what I would like to see for online banking as well. Something as simple as, I want to allow somebody to accept and pay my bills on time, but they can't see my payment history, they can't see any transaction history, and they can't change the date or the amount or the account number for which the money will be paid to if I receive an invoice from, as an example, my power grid company, as an example. And of course, we did this under responsible disclosure. I was in close contact with DNB pretty much from the beginning. I also talked to Finanstilsynet and some other parties involved as well, including Finans Norge, because obviously I have no intention here of being evil, and I don't want to help others be evil as well. So I did my responsible. I actually prefer to use the term coordinated disclosure in this case. And I also said that I do have an intention of having NRK write an article about this when we are sort of like done. So that article came out on March 1st, which coincidentally was also the first day I started working for Vipps, who operates BankID in Norway. And DNB, my sort of victim in this case, is also one of the biggest owners of Vipps. So I cleared this with DNB and with Vipps before starting in the job. I have explained everything I've done, and the weaknesses that we demonstrated were, of course, fixed before NRK wrote their article online. And, I received comments on this, this is good work, impressive, and it was sort of fascinating to see that, oh my God, DNB was highly insecure. Well, they were not. DNB is really professional. They have been really professional about this case. Nothing bad to say about them. But the thing is, I missed anyone asking me this question. Why did you go to the media with this? Because DNB was acting professionally. They fixed it. Why write an article about it? Is that just a show off of my fantastic, amazing hacking abilities? No, it's not, because there are many banks in Norway, and I do not have the time, or to be honest, the interest in checking all banks in Norway to see if they have similar paper forms. And the concept of disposisjonsrett, power of attorney, is not just with banks, it is with insurance companies, with health organizations, and so on as well. And I don't know if they have paper forms for ordering this kind of access for other people. And it would be impossible for me, basically, to check them all. So I said to DNB and to Finans Norge that this article will be coming with NRK at a date when you say things are fixed. And by that time, I also hope that you have given an advance warning to all the banks in Norway that if they offer the option of ordering disposisjonsrett by using a paper form, they should look into their procedures and eventually try to adjust them or fix them before the article appears online. And I think they did. So again, I just want to end off this by saying that at Vipps.no/security, we have published our version 1 of our responsible disclosure policy in case you find anything with us that you want to report to us. Preferably, of course, do follow these guidelines on what you can do and what you can't do, and do it in a responsible way with us, in a coordinated way, I should say. And to finish off, some people might want to ask me the question, so what are you up to next then? Well, DNB is such a big bank that they need to keep these paper forms. So they have updated the paper form. Now it's 2 pages. It's still online, available as a PDF file that you can download and have a look for yourself. And of course, we have talked to DNB and said that we want to fill out this form and send it in and see what happens. And I can reveal to you now that we have. And what happens now is that both the account owner and the person who is going to get access will get a text message saying that we have received your order and access will be provided in 48 hours from now unless you contact the bank and say something's wrong. And that message is being sent, as I said, both to the account owner and to the person that is getting access in the very soon future. So that's my talk. Thank you. And now we'll go over to questions again.